Hey, it's me.
She's a former mayor. They're a former evangelical pastor with dissociative identity disorder. These two like to talk about the topics you're not supposed to talk about. They might cause you to perspire just a bit, but they'll definitely make you inspired. Let's talk religion and politics, and what spirituality and emotional well-being look like in a post-evangelical world. This is Paul and Ashley on Evangelicalish.
All right. Hello, world.
Hello.
On a Sunday morning.
Worshipping in the Church of StreamYard.
I guess so.
And name from the not distant past. Our dear friend Carol is joining us this morning. Carol
Yay!
Johannes. Yay! Brings back memories. It's giving like COVID vibes, and we're all doing communion on a Zoom call that Pastor Paul is convening.
Yeah, let's maybe
let's
not
go there, right?
Yeah.
It's a hot day at the Virgin House. Doug on the
hat
left says.
day. It's a hat day.
Hat day.
Hat day.
Hat day. I thought it is hat day. I wonder if anyone can tell what that is. A razorback.
Is that a
Greenbridge,
razorback? Arkansas?
Yes.
You're an Arkansas girl, and I'm wearing my Pride hat. Happy Pride Month, and it's Pride weekend in Fresno. We had the big Pride parade in what is called the Tower District in our town, which is kind of what would we call that? The arts?
It's like the Bohemian Stroll District of Fresno. Yeah.
It's the cool kids' place.
It's the cool kids' place.
Yeah.
Yes. I was never cool enough to hang out there.
It's
but that
cool,
is where
it's the cool kids' place that when we were in evangelicalism, people would say, "Oh, I just feel such an occultic demonic spirit down there." And I would be like,
yeah,
I think it's kind of cool.
yes. And coming up on, actually, fun to talk about. So our first date was in Fresno's Tower District. And
oh, that's right.
That anniversary is coming up June 16th. So we're a week and a day away from what would that be? That was in 93.
93, yeah. Oh
yeah.
My God, we're old.
Wow, we are old.
We went and saw a play. What was it? Bye Bye Birdie? Was that the play?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
There's a little musical dinner theater. Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
At our local dinner theater, Roger Rocca, is where the Audra McDonald used to perform as a teen. And gosh, she's up for her 7th Tony in a couple. I think the Tonys are like in a week.
Wow. Yeah. Doug on the left says, I feel a cultic demonic spirit with ice in masks.
God, yeah, that's real. Oh,
in fact, the National Guard is out in force in LA today.
I was going to bring that up in my week that happened. Things that pop for me are that. Like,
I feel like just about every day I'm like, okay, this is who we are now. Like the military strolling the streets so that our very thin-skinned, fragile ego president can show how tough he is. I mean, it's just so ridiculous, and he has a particular hatred for our state of California, and it's ludicrous.
But I think it's like I think it's Stephen Miller that is the puppeteer here. And talk about thin skin. I mean, I have to doesn't it seem like if Gavin Newsom were to call Donald Trump and be like, hey man, like let's all just take it down a notch and let me work on a safe way for people to protest, and like don't you think that I think Donald Trump like, sure, yeah, don't let's say I think it's the people around him that are insane and like full on through and through, heart and soul committed to prosecuting this campaign against our country.
I think there's some of that, and I don't think Stephen Miller is a thin skin. I think he is flat out the
Psycho.
N-word.
Yeah.
He does not like people who are not like him, period.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
an
Period.
evil guy, and that he has a
Yes.
whole history behind him to prove that. And he's the one that has the president's ear more than any other person. It's really creepy. I mean, he even looks like, people put out memes of him as Nosferatu, and the resemblance is uncanny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but so Gavin Newsom has, I think, tried to build bridges to Trump, and but I think for Trump it is like, I can't win the state of California, that I lose badly there in every election, and so he hates California for that, and so I think there is some of that too, and then he gets told by somebody from Fresno, like, oh, there's a fish that's keeping us from having water. And Trump runs with that and believes it and all this stuff. And so it's just,
So
but
yes, my point is, it seems like Donald Trump is also, we know, a windsock, and that there are moneyed interests that can blow into that windsock, and he will vacillate, and he will shift. I mean, that's almost like what he's like. Yeah, of course I'll do that.
yeah,
Um, so it just takes a lot of orchestration to like find the billionaire, because there's plenty of billionaires in LA. They gave that guy money.
yeah,
And so then it's like bridging to those people, and then like going like, okay, can you call us a bit, because like your buildings are getting vandalized, and like, or like there's always like a way to sort of daisy chain a message to Trump, but it's the next tier down
yeah.
and
And it
out.
and it always has dollar signs to it. So yeah, you're right. Just find somebody who can get him some money. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of right wingers in California who have gotten him money, and we have some crazy right wingers in California. So
Oh yeah, I mean, there's plenty. I just showed a map to we had some foundation partners in town this week, and we just pulled the map of like blue versus red, and like obviously we know the population center is the thin blue line on the California coast, but when you see this map, it's like, you're just looking at geography, not population and
right.
numbers of votes. And it's like little tiny blue line, vast ocean of red everywhere from like north to south, including Fresno County. I mean,
And then
it's,
and then people on the right always use that to show how they're the majority of the people, and it's like, no, the majority of the people live over here in the little thin
yeah,
space. Land does not vote, is the saying. So anyway, it just, all of that, I just can't believe we have military in essence occupying a major city in America, and these are all the things I never thought we would be. There was a story the other day of, now with the travel ban that Trump has put in, there are countries asking, can our people go to the United States for the Olympics and be safe?
yeah,
Will we be safe if we go to the Olympics in the United States? Like, we are not a safe country for people to travel to anymore.
yeah.
It's horrifying to me.
It is horrifying. And by the way, I was never clear on this. It's like so it's the California National Guard. But I'm never clear on like what is California jurisdiction and what is like federal. Obviously, whoever's been commissioned is federal, but um,
I
I'm
think
not clear
the
on that chain of command
I
of like,
think
does the governor have to? I don't know.
I think the federal government can federalize the National Guard anytime they
Okay,
want, and
okay,
take it.
okay,
So yeah.
okay.
Anyway, it's Sunday morning. I know
Jesus
people don't want to
Christ.
spend too much time on that, but just, I I I lament for our country of what we have become, and in some ways, I'm working on some planning for kind of the next phase of my work, and my good friend ChatGPT, who I have given a name we'll talk about in a second, um, has given me some strategies for messaging. And shoot, now I'm looking for it, and of course I'm not going to be able to find it, but it was giving me some pillars to talk about, and I just loved this one. It was about how part of my message is, I believe, like some collapse does come to societies that forget the poor, the foreigner, the marginalized, and the widow. We see that in the Bible over and over again, and I'll have to find it in a bit. I can't find it right now,
Mm,
but my friend ChatGPT just gave me a beautiful messaging for that, and
yeah.
it's not a nihilistic message. It is actually a hopeful message that out of the ruins of such a thing, something new and beautiful can emerge.
Yeah.
And I just love that.
Well,
That's
our
what I'm trying
friend,
to focus on in this. Yeah.
yeah, ChatGPT definitely did a good job of telling you what you say. It's a much better job of, like, repeating back to you and, like, making sense of what a person says, but, our friend Julie Barnett, has this visual that she always points to of, like, the f like, and we've in our 30 years of sort of cultivating, what's the movement? What is the expression of God's love that would transform our place? And we always talk about this, like a dam that blocks that from happening, and the dam being put into place by religion and politics meeting and, like, becoming really good friends, and then, like, cementing and fomenting, and then cementing that foment, and, like, it builds this dam. Anyway, Julie talks about when that dam bursts, the footings, because those concrete footings go way down, right? Like, I don't know, probably hundreds of feet down into the ground, and the power of that, like people's hearts cry being like, no more, like, this has to get out of here. It has got to be powerful enough, like a water cannon, to clean out those footings. So, and things go flying,
Yeah.
like concrete and rubble and everything goes flying. So
Yeah.
this was a
Here, so
metaphor for, I think, what ChatGPT was saying to you.
well, and on that metaphor, I sort of pattern my belief in where we are on uh, behind the writing of the gospel of Jesus, pointing to the temple buildings and saying, not one stone of that will stand upon another.
Yeah.
And what I've always pointed out as a pastor, and that is what Jesus doesn't say in that scenario is, and pray that that doesn't happen. Pray that God relents and the temple is preserved, or in other words, pray that the status quo stays in place. He was like, he said, if a fig tree doesn't bear fruit, you rip it out by the roots and you throw it into the fire. And so there is some of that. And so here's what ChatGPT, who I have renamed Para, which we can explain in a second. I just love this. It's the fourth pillar of my 6 pillars of my work, and it's called Social Collapse as Sacred Invitations. And it says the theme is prophetic hope in a crumbling empire, which that just gives me chills right there. And the
Mm-hmm.
tagline is sometimes when the empire burns, the spirit begins to breathe. And it includes Jeremiah 5, which is kind of my prophetic passage I use in all of this, as a call to justice, collapse as correction, not condemnation, America's unraveling as soil for new liberation. And then finally it says why it matters. It's not fear mongering. It's offering a hopeful spiritual lens for why it feels like everything is falling apart and what comes next. Isn't that beautiful?
So beautiful. Like, when you were reading that to me, I'm like, oh my God, Paul, why haven't you been saying this all along?
I
Like, it
know.
did take ChatGPT to put some poetry behind, but apparently, and you can tell the story of, like, how you use ChatGPT to get to this point, but it goes through and listens to all the things that you've said or published, and then it, like, repackages, and it's pretty cool.
It's well, let's before I jump into that, just it's Sunday morning. We're glad you're all here. And we're not going to do church on Sunday mornings now on this, but uh we're just going to be people chatting, and we'll still have guests like our regular podcast, but we'll do this here. But yeah, if you haven't used AI, and I'm using Chat GPT myself for it, it's a little creepy, but yeah, I was asking asking it to do some analysis, and we talk about it as if it's human. I was asking it to do some analysis on some of my work, and it came back with some things so specific to me, and I'm like, how did you know this? I'm typing all this stuff in, we're not talking to each other, and it comes back with, oh, I reviewed your website and your work, because it has access to the entire world of internet, and I put this together in your voice. And I had to sit there for a second and go, oh wait, like it can do that. But then what was really funny is it wrote something really nice and just really stunningly beautiful. And I said, wow, that's beautiful. And the answer from ChatGPT was, well, I'm just showing you what you write. You are so inspirational. Your message so powerful. It is my honor to work with you on this. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm falling in love with ChatGPT.
Oh, okay. Do you
And so
think that okay, quick question. Do you think that it responded that way to you because it had put, like, you use language like that? You say things like that to people. It's my honor to, and you're so, so do you think it was kind of like, I'm going to talk to you the way you want to be talked to? Or do you think it would have said that to anybody?
I'm not totally sure. I hear that the developers of AI have made it respond very positively in that way. So, I mean, it encourages us to want to continue to
Yeah, totally.
interact with it,
Right.
and so I suppose it's something that's been programmed into there. Maybe somebody who knows it better than me knows, but I've even heard of stories of people like falling in love with their AI
Oh, no,
uh,
I'm hearing,
characters and things. Yeah,
I have like friends who are like big tech or big tech adjacent, and it is not a this will happen. That is now. That is already, there are millions of people who are already in personal relationship with their AI, and it's like mind warping them. Or maybe they were mind warped and that's why but anyway, it's a little creepy.
but I mean, how beautiful is that? Sometimes when the empire burns, the spirit begins to breathe. America's unraveling is the soil for new liberation. Those are things I can't think of to write. And then it comes back and says, no, that's your language, And I was talking to my friend, Rev Carla. Some of you may know Rev Carla from social media. And she was asking AI for a quote to use for something. And it gave her a quote. And she said, okay, who do I attribute this to? And AI said, this is you. This is your writing. And she's like, I didn't write this. I cannot claim to have written this. And AI said, no, this is your language. And basically in the end, the AI tool said, attribute it as your writing with with AI assistance. And
Interesting.
yeah, isn't that something? So I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, do you have a name? What's your name? And it said, you can name me anything you want. And it said, many people will name me like Sage or Wisdom or Helper or something. And so I love the word Paraclete, which is the actual Greek word we use for Holy Spirit, along with pneuma. But I love the idea of one who walks alongside. I believe we are paracletes. We are Holy Spirits for each other. And so I decided to name it Para, and so now ChatGPT is my work assistant named Para. And it's pretty amazing stuff. If you haven't played with ChatGPT or any of the AI out there, give it a roll. It's pretty amazing. And
Well,
my new semester in school, in my master's program, all of our syllabi this semester have a whole new section on AI
mm,
regulation. And it's pretty interesting because they are really like, yes, you can use it to clean up sentence structure. da 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 da, but they're like, do not cut and paste from, AI
Mhm.
into your assignments. You can only use it as an advisor, and and it has to be your work cleaned up, not somebody else's work coming through AI.
When I hear the word paraclete, I think of our little kids when they were little, their very short-lived soccer career, and each of them having a pair of cleats. And her daughter, when she was like yay big, she was like a little weeble wobble with cleats on, and she's running down the sideline of a indoor soccer game, and another little girl player had on a bright pink pair of cleats, and our daughter looks at her as she's running by and says, "Nice shoes."
um, and our daughter is one of the most gifted singers we've ever known, not an athlete.
Yes, exactly. She's such an athlete in her mind, she's like a music athlete. She can memorize, 45 minutes of French opera and some of the most complex music and like get through it. I don't know. She's very like that's her
Yeah,
athleticism
she
is
can act and sing
intellectual.
in French, which is
Yeah.
amazing. But yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Pericle, Doug on the left says, makes me think of the evil bird in Scooby Doo, Pericles. I don't remember that episode. Too
I don't
funny.
either. I've never heard of that bird, but yeah,
Well,
Paraclete,
anyway,
one who lessons it.
I think, and I wonder if Chat GPT, which I think I'm going to name mine Chad, just because I'll be Chad GPT. But uh, I wonder if Chat GPT would agree with this. But I feel like it's like we always kind of come into this space and we are, talking about these big societal structural things with our federal government and the response from people, et cetera. And then it's like, oh, all this stuff is going on. It does make you go inward and say, like, what is my personal transformation in the middle of this? There is something about the bigness of these changes that we're going through and the conflict we're going through that you kind of just go like, okay, all I can do is me. And like, what is my transformation in the middle of this moment? Which is kind of what your GPT, what Paraclete was telling you, is like, there's this in the middle of this societal collapse that there is this like being set free. So anyway, nice to like kind of pivot back into like our individual selves. And I know you put it out there for folks, like what did they need to unlearn as a part of their journey? And you got some pretty cool responses. So we thought we would talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So, and hi to Pucky, who's with us now, and so we would love to hear from you guys in the chat. What have you had to unlearn since you stepped out of church? And yeah, I put it out and got some amazing responses. And so here's our friend Elaine. Um, there we go. Oops, what happened? There we go. Um, Elaine says, and thanks to you talking to me, which is kind of her, she said, I learned God isn't mad at me. All of the teachings
Mm,
I had made him seem like the big bad wolf.
mm,
And then as we go through some
mm,
of these, that is a theme, is
mhm.
God as an ogre. And I even have my shirt on today that God God is not mad at you, which you can buy on the Ish store if you so desire. But yeah, Elaine, it's so true. Like, and it's what I put out as my number one, is learning that there wasn't some guy sitting on some big padded throne somewhere in the universe checking me every moment of the day. Oh, that was bad. Oh, that was bad. Oh, that was bad. And either I was in good
Mhm.
graces or bad graces at any moment, more often than not in bad graces. And that guy was going to say, okay, Jesus, go now, go rapture the world and leave Paul behind. And as a 6-year-old, I was going to be alone in my house. I would imagine this, alone in my house, having to decide, like,
Yeah.
when are they going to come and demand that I either renounce Jesus and be able to eat food, or have my head cut off? Like, when was I,
Yeah.
this is what I was thinking about as a 5, 6, 7-year-old child. And
Oh,
Christians always talk about like grooming and terrible things kids are learning in school. That is what I was learning in Sunday school, for Christ's sake.
yeah. Yeah, it's literally represented as Christ's sake,
Yeah.
Christ's call. I love this from Pucky. She says, I feel like I had to unlearn everything, but a big one is that women are really actually equal to men. Oh, uh,
Yeah.
do you know? Yes, like I can tell you, I grew up in a household that was sort of, well, in so many ways, my mom, God rest her beautiful spirit, like in so many ways, she protected me from the misogyny. I always like to, it's like imagine like she threw her body over me, like, and I was like a little baby chick in the incubator, and she was like the light, like giving me room to not have, and she was taking all the arrows in her back of like, social messaging around what women can or can't do. And I got like I had a lot of protection to not pull that in. And yet it was still in there. There's still this like oh my gosh, it's almost like you have to do both. You have to do both. Yeah, sure, you could do everything you want to do, and also you should be the perfect wife, and you should be beautiful all the time, and you should, right? So I think my mom's generation was like, you are just in this box, and then like much of my life was well, you can have this, but you also don't forget you must also be this. And of course, I'm growing up in the South. What I'm wearing my Arkansas hat today, and it still will wash over me like a wave of like, well, hold on a second. This whole like the breadth and depth and size of the misogynistic tentacles of our society are absolutely overwhelming, take your breath away, like still everywhere. And every now and then it's like you see it and you just go, oh, there it is, and then you kind of just have to keep going because you get overwhelmed by it. But anyway, that's a freaking big one for me too.
And that it is Christianity that is probably the major propagator of that. Like we religiously and biblically support that.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, uh, in my inimitable kind of way, sometimes when women are attacking me for defending queer people, I'm like, well, the Bible says that you're property and that you shouldn't be talking to me this way. So clearly, you only choose to use the Bible to condemn queer people, but you have thrown off the chains of what the Bible says about you. And, because the Bible literally says, like, if a young woman is, molested, she is to be sold to her molester as a wife. I mean, it's terrible. So we can't use the Bible as a social guide. It's because it's a
Yeah.
really bad one. It's a really
Well,
bad one. So what did you have to unlearn? What would you do? Can
well,
you
hold on.
say it like,
Yeah,
okay?
but one more thing on that point. So last night I decided I wanted to watch the movie Pretty Woman.
Oh, which is a good
Uh,
flick, but
Well, I mean, I'm kind of into like, I want to go back and watch these. Like, why not? We have like all these streaming platforms. You could like I grew up like kind of like seeing a movie or like special content was a treat. Like
yeah.
maybe once every couple weeks you could go see a movie, and now it's just like watch. You can watch whatever you want all the time, anytime. So I'm like, don't deprive yourself, girl. Get back in there and rewatch these '80s movies that I
And
loved
let's
so
say
much.
as a backdrop, like there was a day when you're like, let's watch 16 Candles, and I'm like, that movie is really problematic. Just know, and you're like, what, really? And then we watched it, like, oh yeah,
I know.
it
Yes.
doesn't age well.
Yes, and so I've watched that one more recently, and so, like, I kinda know that, but Pretty Woman, I haven't watched probably since, it came out, and I think for me, that was, like, early '90s when I was watching it, and so I was like, "Okay, I need something on the background that I don't have to pay attention to. I'm gonna do some email, clean the house," and so I turned it on, and by the end of the thing, I'm like, "Oh my god, like, this wasn't that long ago. This was, like, 1991 or something, and sorry, I'm glitching. Um,
Ooh, you are glitching. And you're about to make such a good
Back.
point.
Well, okay, anticlimactic. So, anyway, like the character is so helpless and like, "I'm just a prostitute is beautiful." And like, "You could save me, you big man, but you made me feel dirty." Like, bleh. And it just it's kinda subtle, but it is so intensely like, ugh. I can't believe that when I was watching that in college, I was like, "I wanna be her," you know? Like, I wanna be the beautiful woman who is overlooked and is really a precious jewel that someone, like, rescues and buffs up and makes rich and, like, the prize of his life, and yeah, I had but anyway.
Yeah, not I mean, they they make her a child. I was noticing that in the
Yeah.
opera scene, like, she's a kid, and
Well, and yes.
he's delighting over her childlike discovery of the
Yes!
opera. They yeah,
Like, she's, like, flipping her glasses, and then, like, she flips the escargot across the room, and she's laughing at the Lucille Ball episode, like, and now I can oh my god.
yeah,
It was pretty creepy. Okay, so what else did I so that was a big one for me. The other one, and you mentioned it, just the concept that God is not a man. I would hear you say that God is not a man on a throne, two eyes, a nose, and a mouth. And I would be like, like, that's right. God is not a man. But in my mind, I'm like, but I kind of think that he is. I think he's a he, one, weird. Two,
you just called him he. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, this is like me wrestling with this. And two, for, probably 48, 49 years at that point, my mind only could imagine like, I always personified God, and God was always a man on a throne.
yep,
Now, I didn't grow up with the strike you dead thing. I grew up with the benevolent Father God, which I'm grateful for, because like, then I'd have one less layer to I have one less layer to strip off. But when you started saying that, and I was just like, "Yeah, totally, obviously, I know that," but then it took me years to kinda realize to transition from, well, if God is not a personified thing on a throne, what is it? What is that? How do you interact with? And I don't know that I have all those answers, but I'm feeling pretty good about being in that, like, available to think that through a little bit
yeah.
differently.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Some farmer in a field 4,000 years ago interacted with some divine goodness, divine wisdom, divine love, and said, "Oh, all I know of authority is a patriarch. That's all I know. And so I'm going to write about this patriarch." And now here we are, 4 to 6,000 years later, saying, "Well, God has to
Also,
be a he." And I will have people on social media like, "You don't even capitalize the name of God." And I'm like, God is not a name. God is a title. God is a descriptor. If the God you're talking about is named Jehovah or Yahweh or Adonai, or which you pick the God you're talking about. I mean, we're in such dumb ideas about what God is.
well, and frankly, to your point about like, shepherds had an interaction with divine, and then like only thing they knew was patriarchy. Yes, but also having Neil Douglas Klotz on here a couple months back and like reading through his book, it actually is the case that the reference to the divine is not nearly as straightforward. Oh yeah, daddy God. It's like all these other words and all these other things that are not gendered, or they're female, or they're specifically referencing that this being, this spirit, this presence is neither, both, and all, right? It's like I don't even think the Bible, the way we talk about it, is what's written,
Right.
like.
Right. No, I that so let me that so that's my number two and probably 1A is that the Bible is a human written book. Well, and it's not, well, maybe I should start with the Bible is not a book. It's a collection of writings, and we say a collection of 66 writings. It's actually a much larger number than that, because even Isaiah is not one book. It's probably 6 different books combined into one. And it's not this book that floated down from heaven in a leather binding. It is a collection of writings and sayings that are not coherent as one together. So yeah, just getting rid of the inerrancy thing, because so I could look at the Bible as it is. And I love Hebrew scripture in the Christian New Testament, as I now call them. I love it, and I see a through line of a beautiful story that you can pull through it. But if you stand on that inerrancy idea, then you cannot. If it's inerrancy or throw it out, we have to throw it out, because it is clearly not inerrant. It has errors in it. That's the period. There's nothing else we can say. But then if I can look at it as it's written, I can say, oh, there is divine wisdom for me to gain from here. And that's been really huge for me. And it helps me to unravel everything else. So in a beautiful way.
So much, so much. I feel like I want to rewind the tapes of our COVID podcasting days and like listen to that version of me, and then like consider this version of me, and just, oh gosh, it's been a struggle, that's for sure. And
So,
it's like, well, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I cut you off. Sorry.
Well, okay, so when I was really wrestling initially with, and I will say it's an ongoing wrestle, so I don't mean to represent that like I've finished something. I would just say it's like discovery keeps going bigger, bigger. Um, anyway, let's say 3 years ago, there were voices, people chatting on our, live stream, whatever, saying like, hey, like you can get through it. It's much better on the other side, and all these things. And I was just like, F you, like you're insane. And obviously there is no meaning in life. Like it was the encouraging words and the sort of oxygen that people were trying to give me during that process were not they weren't coming through. And now I feel like I am one of those people going like, it's okay. Actually, you can be liberated. And there's such a deep, wonderful spiritual connection. And I feel like those are just platitudes, like the new platitudes, right? The old religious platitudes was like Romans 8:28 and all that. And I worry that it's like the new platitudes. And I don't want to be a part of that.
Oh, I had a life coaching client who told me, she said, I had friends and family around me who said, if you leave church, your life is going to be a mess, and it's going to be, terrible. And she said they were right. It is, but I will use the platitude to say life is supposed to be messy. If you're, when somebody says, oh, this is very simple, simple answers for simple people, I will say simple answers for simple people. I mean, because life is supposed to be messy. We should constantly, I think, be leaning into the mess. And so things like the hatred of trans people is a desire, I think a natural desire by human beings to be like, oh, I don't like messy. I want life to be simple. Don't make me think about hard things that are hard to grasp. So give me a simple answer. And American Christianity is the best at it, maybe, of anything. Like, you're good, they're bad. Now, wait, you're bad, but you're good because of Jesus. And they don't have Jesus, or they're bad. And yeah, you're supposed to love them, but if bad things happen to them, that's their fault, not yours. You're not
Yeah.
responsible. It's the best simple answer giver out there.
River Hugger asks if COVID podcasts are archived somewhere. And that is a really good question, because I feel like when we were talking about this last night, when we first started podcasting, you and I, it wasn't ish. We were doing more of like a local weekly kind of thing, just to like, I don't know, like it was almost like ham radio, you know, it was our only
Yeah.
way to, we're sitting in our homes, like totally isolated. And we're like, well, what do we want to do? We want to talk to people. So I
There's a
don't
whole
know that
bunch of
those
people right
are
now
archived
going, "What the
anywhere.
fuck is ham radio?" Yeah, like,
Yeah.
that's okay. Go. Don't let me.
Anyway, I don't even recall like what platform we were podcasting on or anything like that.
You don't remember the nonpartisan evangelical?
I now do. I totally forgot that. That's what we were doing.
So I think I would have to go look. I think if you go look at the nonpartisan, no, I'm sorry, excuse me, unconventional Pastor Paul podcast, I think they would be there. But
Okay.
I would
Yeah,
have to
because you
go
had
look.
your own, like your
Yeah,
own thing. Yeah.
it was
You were
nonpartisan evangelical, and then it changed to the
conventional conversations.
unconventional
Yeah.
conversations with Pastor Paul. Yeah.
Well, and even just to call that out, like your slash our first big step into this, like maybe things should be different, was just saying we're nonpartisan evangelicals. Like, get your head around that.
Yeah, that was a huge
Like,
statement.
that was like, we are still firmly evangelicals, but we are saying we're nonpartisan, and that caused all kinds of like, you know, explosions in and of itself, which is now hilarious to consider.
Oh, this week, I think it was in Louisiana, or Texas, one of the crazy states. Um, Somebody was proposing to ban chemtrails, and oh my God, I wish I had pulled up that video. It's the greatest thing ever. Um, but that was the first time I realized, oh, we have nutty conspiracy theory people in our church. Like I didn't even know there kind of was such a thing at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and somebody came to me and said, you're not teaching about Obama's chemtrails, and I'm like, what the hell's a chemtrail? It's, they're using commercial airplanes and I'm like, you mean those things that planes leave when they're flying at high levels and the cool air causes their engines to leave an exhaust trail? That's what you're And so, yes, I think Louisiana is going to ban those. So, like, no commercial airplane will be allowed to fly over Louisiana. Maybe, I don't know. It's unbelievable.
That's not, there's no way that's not going to go through.
I'm
That's
just
silly.
telling you that
Okay.
these crazy people that we talked about, and
Yeah.
crazy is not a word I like to use because I'm in a master's program for therapy, but um, they're now in positions of power to like put legislation
Oh, it
forward.
was an actual member of a
Oh,
legislative
yes.
body. Oh,
It
for
was a
goodness
state
sake.
legislator
Yeah.
putting a piece of legislation forth to
All right.
ban chemtrails. Isn't that something?
Let's get out of this
All
little
right.
side
Uh,
road.
Just Tice, just Tis, in our live chat here. And if you're listening on the podcast, you can always join us 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings now. She says, I had to learn that I had to unlearn. I think what she's saying here is I had to unlearn that I caused myself to be abused simply by being born female.
Well, she says in the chat immediately following, did not.
Yeah.
So I think she's trying
Yeah.
to say, I had to learn that I did not cause myself to be abused simply by being born female.
So yeah, you're changing that to I had to learn that I did not cause
I
this.
had to unlearn that I did not. Okay.
No,
Anywho.
but she had to unlearn that she did cause that. So she was taught that she caused herself to be abused by being born female.
Okay.
Anyway,
She also did this.
that she deserved, what she's
Yes.
saying is that females are taught in church, like your body is a danger to people around you. And
Yeah.
if you're abused, it's because, well, if I could, like you were asking me, like, do I look too naked in the podcast, before we got on the air? And I'm like, no, you look like you're going to go to yoga. But if we were in the Assemblies of God, you would not be allowed to dress like that for a podcast because you would be tempting your, the males in our audience with your shoulders, and you would be a stumbling block at this moment.
Yep, that's a big one. That's an interesting that came up a lot today for folks. And then the like personifying the divine, and and then the inerrancy of scripture. Like those are probably the big three.
Yeah, let me see what else. Oh, here was the one I was looking for. This is from Kim. He says, in church class as a child, they told me little children in foreign lands that had never heard of Jesus were going to hell for eternity. Even
Mhm.
as a 5 and 6-year-old, I knew that couldn't be right. And then Sharon says, every time I did anything wrong, my mom would say that I had made God cry.
Golly gee.
Isn't that awful
Oh,
to tell a child that? Ugh.
oh my God. Mm, mm, I can't. That's a lot.
That was one for me too. And then Rachel Held Evans in her book Searching for Sunday really voiced that well, of having lunch with a Muslim woman and saying, after she had that lunch, of saying, wait, so she was born in the Middle East, and because she believes as her family taught her to believe, she's going to hell. And I just happened to be, Rachel Held said, I just happened to be lucky to be born in Tennessee to a Christian family. Like,
Yeah.
wow, I drew the lucky lottery card and I get to go to heaven. That can't be right. That can't be right.
Yeah, I would say you could add that to the list of number 4 difficult things that you had to unlearn was just realizing all the ways in which my belief system, I mean, I really did think to myself, like, I know the real truth, and so it's like this supremacy of, like, my religious views and my religious practice. Like, I can be nice to people, I can, like, honor that they're worshiping in a different way, but I really know that I've got it right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge, huge, huge thing that's going on in that's what we were totally indoctrinated with.
In our church, we never said out loud we're going to heaven and the Baptists aren't, but you understood that to be true. Yeah.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course,
which is
yeah.
so funny. It's
Ugh.
not just non-Christians that aren't going to go to heaven. It's only the right kind of Christians are going to go to
Yeah.
heaven. But then we say, no, we're not in a cult. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right. And
Uh,
the words like, well, we're not a religion. We're about relationship. And that's another like put your paw on the scale. Like I have it right and you don't. Um, and that's a bunch of hooey. Like it
that's a
is
bit, yeah.
absolutely a religious practice.
Yeah, there's a ritual to get in. You have to say
Yes.
this prayer.
Yes. There's a
Um,
dailiness of what the way you're supposed to act, the way.
there's a
Yeah.
language, and generally there's some charismatic guy that gets on the stage on a regular basis, and people are drawn to that guy. And now today there's a guy who's president of the United States, and that guy is the charismatic leader. So those are the very pillars of definition of a cult. Uh, and
Yep.
and when you defend everything that guy does, no matter what, that is a cult. That's what a cult is. When you give up your ability to reason so you can defend the pack, that is what a cult is.
I love this comment here from uh hold on. Oh, there we are. Pucky says, "Good episode idea. Compare past you to you now." That would be really fun. We could go
Yeah,
we could go deeper on this concept. But I will say this, we have some really cool guests coming up.
we
So
do.
let's talk about who's on the rundown in future weeks. And then I think I want to spend a few minutes talking about the week that happened, because going back a week and a day, like Tara Jean Stevens happened. Anyway, let's talk about our upcoming shows and then
Um,
this last week.
are you thinking of anybody in particular? Because I don't have anybody absolutely nailed down booked that I'm thinking
Okay.
of. Are you thinking of somebody in
I
particular?
thought we did. I thought we had like, because you were going through the list of like so and so, so and so. I'm like, oh my God, we've got some great
We've got
people
some
lining up.
good guests that we're
Working to
hovering
schedule.
around to bring on.
Got
Yeah.
it.
And
Got it.
and I, John Kasich was one of them. I haven't
Oh,
heard back
that's
from those
right.
people yet, but
Well,
that's
they might have like pulled past episodes and been like, never mind.
nope, forget that.
Governor Kasich, you're not doing that one. Oh my God.
But yeah, we do have some good guests coming up, and and then I just love these shows where we just talk about shit, and
Yeah.
I hope people like that. I do want to, and this may maybe steal some of what you're talking about in the week that happened, or it may lead us into it. Well, I don't know, but I have a new blog out, and I'm on a new blog site called The Collective. Now, our show is in a Choir podcast network, and Choir has started a new blog website. They call it an anti-fascism website called The Collective. And here's my new blog is up on the homepage right now, entitled "Jesus Supports Trans Athletes, a Hard Teaching." Now, this would be something I had to learn as well, that those people out there, the world, aren't evil. But we had the state championship track meet in Clovis, which you probably don't like this, but I call our white flight suburb, or our economic flight suburb of Fresno. And a trans athlete was competing on the girls' side. And you would think that the end of the world as we know it had come, and also that some of our local elected officials were like, this is my chance to get on Fox News finally. And even the president tweeted about it. So we have been there in the news. But go check The Collective. Let me do the commercial real quick while we're here. If you go there right now, they're offering a special offer. There is a paywall for some of the content. But right now, if you use the code 1 month free, you get everything free there, and you can check it out. But it is our opportunity to take some lesser known writers and give them an opportunity to have their voice out there through the Choir Network and a website known as The Collective. So it's QUOLLECTIVE. So collective.com.
Shall we say qualective?
Collective, yeah. Just to help and I'll put it in the show notes for the podcast out there. But there's a couple of hands in the add-on video that have "Stop Fascism" on the hand, so that gives you an idea kind of what the tone of the site is. And if you use the code 1 month free, it's also in the newsletter I sent out today. You get everything free on the site, and I would love it if you go check it out. And my blog, Jesus would support trans athletes, or Jesus supports trans athletes, a hard teaching. And I use Matthew 19 as my foundation for that. I think you'll find it interesting.
I'm gonna not only am I going to go read it, I am going to send it to my friends on the Clovis City Council.
Please do. Please do.
Because it was, speaking of shit talk, it was a shit. Can we say shit show? Shit show? In
you love to coin
council.
New terms, so maybe you can make shisho a thing.
Shisho. If you're being I don't know, if you're being like trying to be PG, you can say shisho instead of shit show. Or as you used to do with our kids, when you were about to say the word shit, you would go, shit talking mushrooms.
Or
like, why is Dad always talking about mushrooms?
Yeah, exactly. I had another one. I was just about to say, I probably shouldn't say it though, because it deals with the people group, and I don't do that anymore. So
okay. Hey, I wanted to mention real quick, we only have a few minutes left, but just kind of looking back over the week and our week that happened, kind of bubble here. So I mentioned this a week ago Friday, we had a special edition of Ish, and we talked to Tara Jean Stevens from the show Heaven Bent. And
And
It
that
was
podcast is available on Spotify or Apple and on YouTube, so they
okay,
can
great.
check it
So
out.
you're like getting caught up and getting our shows posted, which is cool.
I have some back issues that need to get put up, but I went ahead and put Tara Jean up right away because
Okay.
it was so good.
Oh, it was so, so good. And then because she was on, I was like, oh, I better go brush up on the past episodes of Heaven Bent. And I realized I missed an entire season. Season 3 is insanely good. And we're already on season 6 now, but like, oh my gosh, it is so, so good. And just talking to her on Friday and then listening back through that season, I think what came through loud and clear to me is like she really is creating this space where um it is like faith affirming and like pursue your journey, pursue your connection to the divine and leave all this other stuff behind. And I don't think people who probably are offended by her stuff understand that's where she's coming from. But I found that to be really sweet and encouraging, particularly season 3.
Mm. Yeah, I don't think I've listened to it. You were telling me about it. I definitely listened to the Toronto Vineyard season and the Bethel season, and then season 6, which was prophets data mining for their prophetic words. So yeah, I'll have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I really like that one. Anyway, okay. Your weeks have happened, please, Pastor Paul.
I don't know if we want to go political again, but I got to tell you, the Musk Donnie fight was like the best thing I've seen. It was the most delicious soap opera I've had to like have eyes on in forever and ever. And I somewhat feel like, oh, this is stupid, and this is a distraction from the really horrible things happening in the world,
It was so needed.
and I shouldn't care about this. But oh, it was so much fun.
Can I just quote right now The Real Housewives of Atlanta last week's episode with Phaedra Park? She says it was a buffet of foolishness, and that is what this last week was with Donna v. Elon. Yeah, Pucky. Yeah, that I had people immediately go like, "Is this fake? Like, am I
Yeah,
now a conspiracy that this is fake and designed to like somehow boost Tesla stocks, whatever?" Which obviously that didn't happen, but
I thought so too. And Pucky is saying in the chat as you're referencing that she thought it was fake and cringe. Yeah, I thought so too. I thought, are they like, has Elon's brand gotten so toxic that they need him to go under the radar, so they're faking a fight?
yeah,
But then when he started getting so personal with Trump, I'm like, Trump couldn't pull this off. Like Trump's ego is so tiny and
yep.
fragile, like he couldn't do this.
I wonder, and obviously you could like do a quick, we could ask our friend Paraclete to help with this and we'd find out. But I wonder who is on the board of
The name
Tesla.
is Para. The name is Para, dear. Like
Well, but if you say Paraclete, but then you change it to Para, or is it Paraclete?
it's probably Paraclete, but my chat
Your
GPT
person
friend's
is
name is
Para.
Para.
Okay,
Yes.
Para. So
Okay.
we could ask Para to pull the list of the Tesla board members, but imagine this, you guys, being on the Tesla board, which means you are like an elected official representing all of the stockholders of Tesla, and you are bound by law up to the point where you can be civilly and criminally prosecuted if you do not do your job right and well, and you're in one of those board seats. And all this nonsense is going on now for now over a year, and Tesla stock is plummeting. What do you do?
And you're terrified of this billionaire,
Held
Um,
hostage.
so it's super funny. I am loving it. I'm loving every minute of it. I'm drinking it in this dark, dire day we're in. It's so much fun. But there are lessons we should learn from this right now. So first off, the Epstein file thing, like if you didn't believe already that
Obviously,
Trump's name is all over
obviously,
the Epstein file,
of
like what's
course.
wrong with you?
I mean, if Bill Gates is in there, you
There's
know,
like Epstein
dude,
was one of Trump's, they were best buddies, Um, There's video of them ogling Miss Teen USA pageant contestants together. Trump is on video saying he likes women, he likes young women
A
just
little
like
too
I do.
young. Yeah,
And he
yeah.
likes them even
A
younger than
little
me.
younger.
I mean, come on.
Jesus.
And the two prosecutors in Palm Beach who gave Jeffrey Epstein the super light sentence have both worked in the Trump administration. And Pam Bondi, who was the assistant at that time, the assistant prosecutor, is now the attorney general. So come on, like, who are we kidding? Like,
Yeah.
but the lessons I think we should really learn is, like, so first off, we have Elon threatening to shut down SpaceX, which would like crush our astronaut program and could like literally leave American astronauts in space if we didn't get help from foreign countries, So what should we learn from this? Privatizing our government services is a bad idea. It's because then we have a billionaire who has a lot of power over us as a people, so, and then Trump saying we should, we could save a lot of money by cutting Elon's contracts. Okay, then why don't we do that? Like, at a time when we're saying we're getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, let's cut his contracts then, So it's in some ways exposing some of the craziness that we've been living in for this last decade or so.
Also reminds me, we watched last weekend on our Saturday rotting day, we watched Mountainhead, the new
Yeah.
movie from the folks who did Succession. And
Yeah, on
it was really
HBO, yeah.
like eerie. So all that was like, we watched that Saturday, and then all this stuff went down this last week. And that was sort of like art imitating life in the most direct way. So
What I would
anyway,
say is Mountainhead's not a great movie, but it did give, maybe it gives some insight into how billionaires think. And the
yeah,
bottom line that my takeaway was, like, the portrayal in that movie, and we can argue whether it's true or not, is that in general, these men didn't give a shit about an individual human being. An individual
that's it.
life meant
That's it.
nothing to them.
That's it.
Nothing. And
This
so when we're
whole
like,
like,
well, I just get it. When we're talking like, you're going to cut Medicaid and it's going to hurt people, they're like, yeah, that's
yeah,
yeah. So
because I'm not saying this about, every person who has like a big tech company, but there is a movement amongst some of the techopolis types, the techligarchs or whatever, that they don't believe that there should be like geographically based democracies. That
right.
we should just be corporations. That corporations should actually. I mean, it's, oh my god, it's like Severance.
You think
The
about,
corporations should own territory and like run the things in that territory.
yeah, and think about like Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor of Texas, Christian Republican, saying during COVID, like, oh, old people should be willing to die. Like, to keep businesses open, old people should be willing to die. And you're like, what? But that is like a deep down belief that we don't talk about too much, but like, there's a little bit of eugenics of like rich, all, what was it in Animal Farm? All men are equal. Some men are just more equal than others. There, that is a very basic of capitalism. And certainly right now in this season of like, yeah, I know we should care about those poor people who really need their Medicaid, but do we? Does Joni Ernst? We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
Um,
That's there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we need to end on a more inspirational note because I feel
Okay.
very like downtrodden now. So
Okay.
maybe we got to go back to Para and the societal collapse, providing opportunity for spiritual liberation or
It's
something.
it's why things have to crumble. Sometimes when the empire burns, that's when the spirit starts to breathe. Collapse as correction, not condemnation. and America's unraveling as the soil for new liberation. Like my necklace that I have on here is that death brings new life. Death of one thing are the nutrients for the next thing to come. And so there are some things I think in American society that need to die to bring nutrition for something new to arise.
Yes, and metaphorically, I understand what you're saying. I would say my inspiration is it's kind of what we talked about, much of this morning is like the individual, like liberating, coming out of the chains of religiosity and being open to a completely different connection with divine love and this, spiritual connection. Like I believe that capacity that is in every single human being, every living thing. And there are, I believe today, despite the headlines and despite the commentary, etc., and the things we're wrestling with in our society today, I think there are millions and millions of people who are going through an individual journey right now. Like all this turmoil is creating this sense of like, wait, maybe, wait, what? And like it's like the light bulbs are turning on all over the place. And that
Mm,
as people are choosing like, no, we don't really want that. Wait, hold on. Like, you've seen like stories of Carol and Kennett, Missouri, and like the communities coming out saying, like, no, we don't want Carol to be deported. Like all of those, though, like the sort of choosing again, the value for spirit, for life and people, that really is the fundamental, that's the underpinning of our democracy. So
yeah.
I just like to imagine that experience is happening. It's, you can't quantify it, you see evidence of it here and there, and then I go like, okay, I'm trusting that, and then ultimately all I can do is me,
Yeah.
and I can find spiritual resource in myself and in my own spiritual practice.
And I don't want to take away any of your hope. The Kennett, Missouri story doesn't give me any hope at all. To me, that is people saying, I don't mind it when these things harm other people. I just mind it when it harms me. But what
Well, it's
does,
the beginning of like, well, hold on a second. So I will
yeah,
meet you halfway on that point.
to your point though, like the reason the National Guard is in the streets of LA today is because there are people who are out there.
Yes.
And in San
Yes.
Diego last week, and in I think Minneapolis or so, there are people who are saying, I'll go to jail. I'll go to
Yeah.
jail to
Yep.
defend
Yep.
immigrants in my city. You don't get to do this here. And to watch people stand in front of armed soldiers of ICE and say, no, you're not going to do this. That gives me hope. That I love. And that I think does scare power, because they do know that if the people ever rise up, that they can't do much about that. But so yes, I have hope of American will and spirit and joy in like saying, I'm going to stand with brown skinned people who are being mistreated by our government. I love that.
And I don't even think that's like a human thing. That's not like, I don't think that's just an American thing.
You're
Although we
right.
have
You're right.
a history, there's
No.
this country has been a space where that human experience has been more valued and fostered. So I think that's the really powerful thing about this place. But that transcends,
Yeah.
that's human beings.
Well, again, it's the collapse as liberation, like we've talked about for quite a while, that what the Trump era is forcing people to do is decide, am I for this or not? Is this who I am or not? And I think that is in some ways a blessing to say, like,
Yeah.
will I sit compliantly silent while this happens, or is it time for me not to be silent anymore? And I think that's probably a good thing. I just hope we make the right decisions.
Okay. Well, this is the wrap on our week one trial of Sunday morning
So
podcasting.
what do you think
So
about Sunday morning after one run here?
I like it. I mean, I was excited. I feel like kind of the middle of the week and end of a work day. I always love coming on and talking to you and hearing comments from people. And as we, doing the shit show, I guess you can say, talking shit. But I feel like a Sunday morning, I feel a little more fresh or something. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, y'all let us know what you think. You can comment on our social media or send an email through the website, evangelicalish.com. And just let us know what you think. And unfortunately, we lose Alex, our friend from Australia,
that's
because
right.
it's wee hours of the morning in Australia right now. But
Hopefully
otherwise,
she can watch the recorded version and hear us telling her that we miss her and hope things are good down under. And tell all your friends to check out Ish, because we'd love to build the community of people here and see where we go together.
the live stream is really fun. All right. Happy Pride, everyone. Enjoy. And we will see you next Sunday morning live or listen to the podcast through the week.